Just before I was called by the Lord, I had a Jewish girlfriend who was raised pagan. Real pagan, not the generalized term used by Hebrew roots. Okay, now this right here, I'm sure that, and I honestly forget who I pulled this from, so I'm sure this person would be able to elaborate a little bit. Paganism seems to be much more of a broad term. It's like saying, my ex-girlfriend was Jewish. So there's all sorts of different flavors of paganism. And I don't think it's not just like one strand of paganism goes back to, right. Babylon. It's like Christianity. There's all different factions. So, and I'm sure that a lot of pagans would probably say, oh, that kind of pagan isn't real paganism. Oh, that kind of pagan isn't real pagan. It's right. So using a blanket term,
it becomes a political term. Like, who's the real pagans here?
Yeah, exactly.
But for the most part, it's what non-pagans use to describe like the practices of the peasantry or something. That's where it originated. But anyway, go ahead.
Okay, so he goes on. She told me what she believes about Easter. She told me without hesitation that it was full of symbolism and that the real story was about what comes out of the egg that the rabbit laid. I don't understand why you're not asking pagans. Now, he's saying in terms of why we're not asking pagans about the pagan origins of
wait
Easter.
A minute, Bunny. Okay, I grew up in a Easter egg hunts kind of thing on Easter Sunday, etc. I never, even with all the bunnies and eggs, never heard a story that the bunny laid an egg. Is that a tradition in some places? That the eggs actually came?
I don't know.
Had you heard that before?
No, I had not.
Either. Okay, so this is new. This point in this email, that's new information for me.
So, but this point, yeah, I agree with you completely.
I think that might go back to Ishtar.
Okay, so now hang on now. Now, he says, I don't understand why you're not asking pagans. They believe what you're saying isn't true. Now, I don't necessarily think that's...
We actually set up a survey and no one responded.
The point is that I don't... Once again, I would like to stress, and I've said this so many times, and I feel like some people aren't really listening. The point is that I'm not saying that rabbits and eggs at Easter time couldn't be from pagan sources. Maybe they are. I have no problem saying that. What I'm saying is that we don't have any proof of that, and that Christian apologists sometimes they put forth arguments of where they came from in the church. And my point is who's to say that the Christian apologists are any less right than the people who are saying that it's pagan? Okay, and this is my point with this. He ends this little comment. He says, "It's not truth. We know this, but modern pagans believe it." Here's the problem: saying that modern pagans believe something about their modern holidays. Well, guess what? The Jews, and I shouldn't say that, but there are certain sects of Judaism, like certain sects of the Hasids, the Hasidic movement in general, believe that the Zohar, 12th century, goes back to Sinai. You ask any Hasidic
13th century, but that's okay.
13th century. Sorry. You ask any Hasidic Jew about the Zohar, they're going to tell you that it all goes back to Moses. Is that true? No, of course not. Just because you have a modern day, just because you have somebody who, played some Dungeons and Dragons.
Well, it's like they're an authority now.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's just talk about that. So there was a girlfriend who was a real pagan, quote, real, not a fake pagan.
Let's say, okay, wait, hang on.
She said it meant this. Therefore, is she the spokesperson for all things pagan?
No. Once again,
I think that what you're saying.
And this is what, and this is the point is that just because somebody in modern times says something, it doesn't matter what religion they're a part of, whether they're Christians, whether they're Jews, whether they're pagans, it doesn't matter. If somebody in modern day says something about ancient times, great. Now, show me a source. That's the point, and that's what we keep trying to stress.
Can I add a point on the nuance? And this gets back to this idea of sources we were talking about last week. The reason we want to have a source is not simply so it looks like, oh, this ancient figure said this, like Aristotle, therefore it must be true. That's not why. We don't just do it and say, oh, well, Aristotle said that. What we do is we provide the citation of the source so our readers can then go follow up and look at what we looked at, right? So that they can retrace our steps and think for themselves. In other words, the citation of sources is to provide your audience with the same data that you came to your conclusions from, so that they can go and then they can have an informed discussion with you about whether or not you're even quoting it correctly, right? Because the idea is we're collectively seeking to sharpen our swords. We're collectively seeking to grow in knowledge, not pull one over on somebody. That's not the goal of citing something. Is not say, well, I can cite Aristotle. No, ultimately we need to know, okay, if you're going to say it's Aristotle, we're going to say, well, where's the text? Where's the manuscript come from? Is there any disputes among that tradition? I mean, it's a thorough investigation, no different than the priests who are investigating a claim, about something, because it could lead to a life and death kind of situation. I mean, we don't want to just build knowledge on sand. We want it to be built on rock, and that means we're all going to say, yeah, that's rock. That is rock. These are the facts, not this guy said it.
And interestingly, in trying to prepare the intro to a thesis, which is now at 35 pages, this is just my intro. The thing is that as I'm going through the argument that I'm trying to lay out for the chronology of the Passion and the Last Supper, one of the things that I've realized is I can't just state what I believe. In fact, one of the most important things to do is find the arguments that directly are the hardest arguments for me to address. Hey, did you enjoy that clip? If you did, you should like it and share it. That way other people can see it. Also, you should subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can do that by clicking this round thing right there. You should do it. Click that. Or you can also catch the full episode of that clip by clicking that right there.